the conversation of his own mind is preventing him to go further. And how that, she helped him to change the conversation of his own mind, and how he went on then to become the world's top neurosurgeon and set up in Stanford something called the Center for Altruism. And he wrote a book called The Magic Shop, which the Korean K-pop band BTS, it's converted into a music. And that musical performance of BTS based on this book went on to become one of the chart busters. What blocks your own mind to improve? So on one hand, your mind wants to change, but on the other hand, your own mind prevents you to change. And how to observe these two polarities inside your own mind, what Keegan's work I refer to. I also refer to Swami Chinmayananda's and Vedantic view on this, that when you observe your own mind, you can say, my mind is playing games. When you are inspired by a cause that is worthwhile, it's not about you, it is about making a difference to the world. So if you find a worthwhile cause in your life, and if you dedicate your life by using all your strengths in service of that cause, then beautiful things happen to you. Then the leadership happens to you. AI is from aspiration to inspiration.
Wow.
From outside to within. So use these two AIs, the appreciative inquiry to build trust with others, and the inner inquiry from aspiration to inspiration. So when you do these two AIs, then that AI has more impact and meaning.
Not everything that matters needs to be loud. Some conversations help you pause, some help you see differently, and some stay with you long after they end. Welcome to Inspire Someone today, my dear listeners, a space for honest conversations about life, work, and the choices that shape who we become. No quick fixes, no borrowed certainty, just real stories, thoughtful reflection, and the quiet courage to live with intention. This is Inspire Someone today, where conversations are human, reflective, and meant to stay with you. Anil ji, welcome back to Inspire Someone today. You are one of the very first people who said yes before there was so much of a show to say yes to. And somewhere along the way, that conversation became a friendship, and that friendship became a foreword in my book. So when I say that it means a great deal to have you back, I want to know that I really mean quite literally.
I was very touched by your enthusiasm for what you do and for serving the well-being of all. So I was very happy to participate, and so nice to see that your enthusiasm continues unabated over so many years.
Now that you have written yours, The Inspired Leader, 7 practices, 9 chapters, 50 years of living distilled into something a person can actually hold in their hands. I have been sitting with this book, Anil ji, and I have questions, real ones. So let's go. Anil ji, for the benefit of a lot of our listeners, just to say that Anil ji is the first guest who is making the second appearance on this podcast. And I'm so humbled and obliged with his enthusiasm and his love for this podcast and for our journey. And Anil ji, your life's mission statement, you said many years back, I can't forget it, was at the age of 19, right? Many people wouldn't have even figured out lunch at 19. You had a mission statement at 19. What happened that gave you that kind of clarity? And what was it really? Was it clarity or was it something else for you?
I was very fortunate to be born in a family where at a very early age we got exposed to the teachings of Swami Chinmayananda. And because my father was in the army and later on my brother and brother-in-law were all in the army, there was a lot of influence of the armed forces. We lived in army cantonment. And because we were members of the Bal Vihar group of Chinmay Mission, there was always an opportunity to do some small projects which we were given. And the projects were always linked to serving the well-being of society or doing something for the happiness of others. So from a young age, I used to attend the teaching of Swami Chinmayananda. I used to listen to his lectures, even when I was in high school. And then when the 71 war came, my brother was in war. My dad was in the ordnance depot in Devur, where we were posted near Pune. My brother-in-laws were both at war. My cousin, who was in the Corps of Artillery, was at war. So I asked myself and my friend, what can we do besides doing the rounds of people's homes to make sure they have darkened their rooms because of the air alert and the enemy plane coming? So I wrote a play in Hindi And I went and talked to the actors, the budding actors in Film Institute of India in Pune. And I and my friends persuaded them to come and act in a play in our offices in situ. And we sold 5 rupees a ticket entrance fee for that play and collected 5,000 rupees, and we donated that money to the martyr's family. And this was, I thought, something we created, something called Degu Youth Forum. Degu Road is the name of the place. And it gave us a lot of happiness. All of us felt very satisfied that, okay, we couldn't wear the uniform and be there, but here is something we did to serve. And so it was very clear to me that I had to choose a life of service. And then I was talking to Swami Chinmayananda. He gave me a book called Vedanta Through Letters, and he wrote something on the book. It made me reflect on what I wanted to do in my life. And then just a dream was born: India's economic development. Once again, improve our economic strength. Only then we can really improve the lives of our people and bring the glory of our civilization back. But there were also a caution, because I had some friends from the US. I knew how capitalism in the United States, even at that time, had resulted in families breaking down, drug abuse, and so on and so forth. So the words that came were how to have economic development based on solid values. We called it without spiritual impoverishment. So I wrote some sketchy dream like that, and it was very clear I wanted to contribute. Didn't know how, because, at that time I was still in my undergraduate study. And then subsequently management studies happened, and then I said, okay, I'll work in industry for a while. And then I'll create a think tank and a consulting company that would help Indian industry to become strong and contribute to Indian, sort of the words made in India is something during my time, they were something which we were embarrassed by, because the quality of our products was not all that great. This is, the 70s. So I said, if I can in my lifetime contribute to Indian companies really competing, truly those organizations that produce products and services which gave us the sense of satisfaction, that this is excellent. This is what India used to be at one time. So that's what I dreamt about, and that's how the mission statement came out of. But later on, it became the guiding force for many things that happened in my life.
So it started off with that small intent, and here you are kind of reliving many things that you wrote down. And in that journey, after you wrote that at the age of 19, you wrote that mission statement for yourself, then Eicher happened. And many ways, you have very fond memories of Eicher that has kind of made you as the person, as the leader that you are. Walk us through your Eicher days. What was the profound learning that you had there?
I was very fortunate that I met a man called Mr. Vikram Lal, who was the main shareholder behind Eicher. And Vikram was a product of post-war Germany. And he is somebody who very humble, very straightforward, very ethical, and really believed in respecting people. And when he was interviewing me, I could realize that this man is very different, because I had not met anybody who was a better listener. And he chose to spend several hours to get to know me, which was unusual for an interview. So I chose to give up my job at Tata Motors and join Eicher, even though I was not getting much of an increase in salary or anything like that. And my parents were in Pune, and I and my wife were totally married, but we decided to shift to Delhi. And at a very young age, I had only 3.5 years of experience. I was given the responsibility for creating the HR function in the corporate office, which was unusual. Eicher was not a big company at that time, but just to have a young person like that being trusted to set up that function was something I was very fortunate. And because of what we all did in Eicher, the credit goes to my colleagues as much as what I contributed. We created a very wonderful environment to work. And I went on then taking on more and more responsibilities. At 27, I was made in charge of operations of our mother plant. So I was in manufacturing. That gave me a tremendous amount of exposure. Then I was brought back to the corporate office. I was asked to help in introducing the total quality management movement across all our plants. And what we found, there are many beautiful things that happened in Eicher, including the way we handled challenges. I'll never forget that soon after I joined, there was a strike at Faridabad, and all the labor unions agreed to go on strike except the Eicher union, which was an internal union, said, we will not go on strike. Our products are in short supply. The farmers are waiting for our tractors, so we will operate the plant along with the management. And next day, a violent mob came. There was police firing. 19 people died in police firing. Our next door Hitkari pottery was set on fire. And when the mob came to enter our plant, our union leaders picked up the lathis and stood at the gate. And they told that mob of several thousand, if you go inside this factory, you will go over our dead body.
Oh,
To see this kind of deep belongingness and saying that this is our company was something which, for a young person like me, that was something very, very exceptional. And later on, I sat with those workers because soon after that, I was transferred to the factory to work with the same work. And I was very inspired by what they had to say. They told many stories about how they felt this company was their own and how Mr. Vikram Lal had treated them. There was another colleague of ours, a senior colleague, Mr. H.D.S. Malhotra, how he had treated them. So the culture was already there of belongingness and respect for people. A formal HR function had not yet been created, and Vikram asked me to create that. And I think I got a platform which I couldn't have asked for a better platform. And then the kind of new people we hired from the best engineering school, the best management schools, all because they believed in the dream. My responsibility was to share that dream with young talent that we were bringing in. And because I was so convinced from my heart, by that time I'd begun to feel I owned the company. So I think beautiful things began to happen. There was also another personal incident. When I was very new to Eicher, I got a bad attack of typhoid. I was down in bed for 40 days. And Mr. Vikram Lal personally visited my house. I've mentioned it in the book as well. Every few days he came to visit me. Now, here is a person who is the so-called shareholder of the company. And here is a young man who is in his 20s, who is newly hired into the company. But this promoter, this MD of the company chooses to visit his home every few days, inquiring about his health. So he must have visited my home maybe 7 or 8 times during my sickness. And I said to myself, this is an organization which is quite exceptional. I have never ever even heard a story about how an MD would visit a young officer's home frequently when he's down in bed. So all these things gave me the moral and spiritual sense of belongingness.
so it's such a wonderful anecdote of belongingness. The times that we are in, to kind of have a leader like that to demonstrate the way Mr. Vikram Lal demonstrated his hats off, right? Now coming close to inspired leader, Anilji, 50 years of knowledge distilled into 9 chapters. I love the way you kind of started your book calling out 2 lies. So I think calling out these 2 lies, which is the most widely held beliefs about leadership. What made you to choose this provocation as the opening note? And what do you say to the person who pushes back on this provocation?
One person who is one of my dear friends, who's also a co-author, he told me, why call it a lie, call it a myth. But I chose to call it with a stronger word for lie because, see, you may be born into a context and you may be given certain traits based on your inheritance. Like some traits are linked to your genes. But even if you have been given the best genes, what you do with them is really up to you, the effort you make and the way you educate yourself and you to learn. And then there are other circumstances in which you are born into the most unfortunate circumstances. Most people would give you up that you can't achieve anything in that circumstances. And I met so many people in my life who defied all odds to emerge, not just amazing leaders in their own sphere, global leaders. I mean, the case of James Doty, for example, which I talk about. Dr. James Doty, when he was 12, his mother was clinically depressed. His father was an alcoholic. He felt life was over. And then he met this kind woman called Ruth in a magic shop in his city. And Ruth began to talk to him, helped him to realize that the conversation of his own mind is preventing him to go further. And how that, she helped him to change the conversation of his own mind. And how he went on then to become the world's top neurosurgeon and set up in Stanford something called the Center for Altruism. And he wrote a book called The Magic Shop, which the Korean K-pop band, BTS, it's converted into a music. And that musical performance of BTS based on this book went on to become one of the chart busters. So, amazing story of a young kid who gets inspired by a chance encounter with a woman who for 3 weeks mentors him to change the language of his mind, and amazing things happen. So, that's one of my favorite stories. There are 2 other stories I talk about in the book, but so that clearly shows that you are not born as a leader. Whatever context you are born in, you can do something amazing with your life. So that's the first one. And the second thing is, I say that the biggest lie on leadership is that you lead someone else. See, what does a leader do? Whatever traits you say, they can be linked to 5 dimensions. How does he lead his own body? That means the 5 senses. The ability to observe, the ability to listen, the ability to communicate through touch, the ability to source physical well-being through smell and taste by eating consciously, sleeping consciously, exercising consciously, drinking consciously. So you lead your health, you lead your perception, the way you perceive things based on the way you lead your body. Then the way you lead your breath. Because when you are breathing in, you are receiving stimuli. And we are supposed to take a pause before we respond. But some of us impulsively react to the context, which means we are impulsively reacting based on our biases. But the moment we consciously respond by taking after breathing in, there is a pause that we are taught in pranayama. Then you respond. So that creates communication well-being. Then the way you lead your emotions. So most beautiful part of that is based on how you empathize by getting out of your shoes, step into others' shoes. How do you build that sense of trust through authenticity? How do you demonstrate that you truly are interested in helping someone else who is suffering through compassion? All these build trust. So the way you lead your emotional heart is so important. And if you really pay attention to your own moments of being at the happiest best and pay attention to your emotions, that when was your heart revealing to you that you have done something very worthwhile. And when you pay attention to that, you discover your gifts. So I have a whole chapter on discovering your gifts. I have a chapter on building trusting relationships. And then I say, okay, this is all linked to leading the emotional mind, but how about leading the intellectual mind? So in the intellectual mind, I talk about how logic and rationality and analytical ability is just one part of the mind, the intellectual mind. But how do you also welcome the child in you? How do you welcome the feminine in you, which is the intuitive, the creative energy? So you think with the power of the whole mind. So then you become extraordinarily creative. I talk about how fears prevent us from being creative. And fears are created at a young age. But how do we, at any stage in our life, we can take responsibility for overcoming our fears? And I talk about how you can do that to think with the whole mind. And right at the beginning, I mention in my book, before even I describe the capacity to build relationships or capacity for thinking, I talk about right in the beginning, after discovering the gifts, I talk about the practice of learning. Because if you have a learning mindset, beautiful things can emerge in your life. So learning means always paying attention to, this is what I want to do, this is what I actually did. What did I learn out of it? Which is the process of introspection. When we look back at our intent versus what actually happened. Then, what is preventing me to learn in the current context? If I am in a situation where I'm finding it very difficult to handle, what's preventing me? Paying attention to my own thoughts, which are preventing me to learn, my own mindset that is preventing me to learn, my own getting overwhelmed by different aspects. So that is learning from the present. And then having that beautiful childlike curiosity to be open to the future, which means even if there is a very significant problem, when you have a childlike curiosity to say, where is this coming from? You can look at it in ways which is with an open mind. So when you are looking at even a very major crisis with an open mind, you suddenly find that a crisis can be converted into an opportunity. So the power of the unschooled mind, you know what Mark Twain said, let your schooling not interfere with your education. So how do you actually retain that beautiful curiosity in your life? So I talk about that. And then, of course, the next practice I talk about is your capacity for action, which means, okay, you are learning, you are relating to people, building relationships, you are aware of your gifts, you are thinking with the whole mind. But with all this, you finally have to actually act on it, whatever. You have to execute on your idea, because one knows so many people who come out with so many ideas every day. but they don't have the discipline, they don't have the focus, they don't have the stamina and the energy. It's like to see your energy. You're going on to this, inspire someone today continuously. You have not allowed any naysayers to tell you, come on, Shrikant, why do you do this? You have a full-time job. Why do you do this? And you said, I do this because it's good for my heart. It's good for my soul. That helps you to source your stamina. So where do you get your stamina from when you really love something that you're doing? So I talk about the capacity for action, which is how to overcome your knowing and doing gap. So how to source the stamina, how to source the energy, how to have focus, how to have that discipline in making sure you follow certain things, then follow the right process. Because if you just have a haphazard way of working, so the importance of process, the importance of structure, the importance of quality, I talk about in the capacity for action. And finally, I say, all this must get the inner power, which means the real energy will come if you find your work is an act of something much higher than just earning money. That work is an act of fulfillment, that it gives you meaning. And if you then can express your highest values that you have into a sense of the purpose that you have in your life, the why behind your work. When you connect to the why behind your work and you use the power of your own values, then, as I write in my book, you rise in love and work becomes what Khalil Gibran says, work is love made visible.
Beautiful. Work is love made visible. I will nudge all of our listeners to go get a copy of The Inspired Leader.
Yeah.
Anilji, I had a couple of questions from the book, not to show off that I read the book, but to kind of tell you that it caught my attention. I wanted to kind of get it to my listeners through your word, through your wisdom. So you did touch upon it, but I would want to pick a couple of things. One was you talk about the source framework. Again, very beautiful. People who know SWOT, they can relate to the source framework. But a listener who has never been to a workshop of appreciative inquiry, what is this for them that they can do on their own?
I'll give you first a very simple example. The beetle, the insect beetle, if any engineer looks at it or scientist looks at it, by the design of the body, it will conclude it cannot fly. But it flies anyway because it doesn't know it cannot fly.
Right.
Interesting story, when we were building our campus for soil, because of the extreme corruption in the local government office, our building plans were not getting approved. The project was behind schedule for 2 years. And finally, we were at the Siddhbari ashram. We all sat in prayer. We had gone and listened to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who was talking in his talk that day of forgiveness and reconciliation. So when we all sat down to meditate, and before doing that, we sent a message to the head of the government department saying, we are all at this holy place. 35 of us have assembled from all over the world to make a vision for soil. And the file is still not approved. Would you kindly bless this project? And instead of saying you haven't approved a file for 2 years, we sent a prayer for him saying, please. You become a part of our project. Bless this project. And miraculously, within 5 minutes, the message came, your file is up.
Wow.
So it's very interesting when you invoke the positive intent in your life. Then, of course, we had very little time to construct the building because this was already 2nd October and 17th July, Guru Purnima Day was to be our first class. And even the construction had not started. So when we tried to hire an architect and a contractor to finish our building, they said no, because by the time all the paperwork was done, it was December. They said in 6 months, we can't make this building. Everybody refused. Then our Guruji told us, you take anybody who has a pure intent. Tell that person there is no penalty if you delay, but you start. So a local contractor who had built my house, he had never built an office building. He said, Anilji, I'll join you. So he joined me. And then an architect who had only designed a warehouse, he had never designed an office building. He said, Anilji, you are telling me I will do it. These two were not experts. The experts said it cannot be done. These two people with a pure intent helped us, and in exactly 6 months, our building was ready. I still don't know how we did it, but it happened. So the SWOT concept says, focus on your strengths and your intent. Focus on the opportunity that is inspiring you to do something. And dream about what is possible. The power of your dream is very important. If that happens, the results will come. So focus on strengths, opportunities, your own aspirations, and keep that picture in your mind. Visualize the results coming. When you begin to visualize, there is great power in visualizing. And if the entire team visualizes together, that purity of the intent, that spirit that my teacher says, the yajna spirit, that helps everybody to join hands and do miracles. So therefore, many companies have understood a new way of strategic planning. There are plenty of case studies on SOAR, and they have given up on SWOT and switched over to SOAR, because the SWOT one focuses too much on threats, too much on weaknesses. This one says, forget all that, focus only on your strengths and the future. Beautiful things will happen.
And on those lines, I kind of go to the next chapter, which is even more beautiful, which is the 3 dimensions of learning: hindsight to insight to foresight. And here I want to kind of get your commentary on choiceless awareness. You know what I'm referring to. Krishnamurti's choiceless awareness. If you can just talk about what do you mean by that?
As long as you are alive, there is the life-giving force in you. The body which we have been given as our equipment for doing everything that we have been given. The universe has given us the body, but the strength in the body comes from the pure life-giving force, which we can call consciousness. The moment you are identifying yourself only to the body and its limitations, then you begin to worry about what is possible, not what is not possible. Similarly, if you are too much concerned about what will others say and emotional dimensions of what would happen if I fail, oh, what would happen? This seems very ambiguous. I've never handled this earlier. I don't have enough resources. The moment you have those kinds of limitations of your own mind preventing you to do something, that you are playing too much into your equipment of the mind. Similarly, the intellect which has some beliefs. This is possible, this is not possible. If you are too much staying with your intellectual beliefs, chances are that you are not invoking what the power which gives the strength to the intellect, to the mind and to the body, which is the pure life-giving force, which is that pure awareness. The shine of awareness on the body makes it function. The shine of awareness on the emotional mind makes it emote. The shine of consciousness, of pure awareness on the intellect gives it a capacity to think. So when you say, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, but I am that witness, I am that pure consciousness, I am that pure awareness, then all the limitations that you are experiencing in the context can be overcome when you become the observer. When you become the witness of your own mind, you can transform your.
How beautiful. And you kind of have this wonderful chapter around building trusting relationships. And I know you don't talk lightly about any of these topics because it's lived experience for you more than just writing it out there. And it's a very good one, building trusting relationship in the day and age that we are. What breaks trust more often in modern workplaces? And what's one thing a leader can do to enhance it?
First of all, the more senior you are, the more you need to know that you need to learn. If you are a CEO of a company and you pretend to have all the answers, I think that's a very unfortunate thing for you and the organization. So I think a leader's who is given a senior role, that person's role is to convene the right people around the right questions. It's like a social architect. So it's very important. People trust you when you say that you don't have the answers and that you believe that collectively we will find the answers. It shows you are vulnerable. It shows you are humble. It shows you are willing to learn. In that environment, people trust you. Secondly, when you say you will do something, you actually go out of the way to do that. And if you are unable to achieve the end output that was desired, you are very transparent to talk about why something has not happened and what are the things you have done. So being extremely open and honest, see, your audio should match your video. If you say something and then you do something else, that's where the mistrust begins. And a lot of people do sort of role plays based on a situation. They say something. In an open house, they will say something to employees. In a closed door with their leadership, they will say something else. Then alone, when they are with their own boss, they will say something else. This kind of continuously speaking half-truths is very stressful for a person. And it also creates stress everywhere because people say this organization cannot be trusted. Because there is something that this organization is not transparent. It says something today, says something else tomorrow. It conveniently finds a logic to suit a situation rather than appear to be principled. So I think if you have a philosophy which is quite open and if you are very willing to learn and you are always willing to say that we never have the last word on anything, that collectively we have to figure it out. If something is not working, let's find a solution. Let's not stick on to our ego to think because I have said something, everybody should follow it. So I think this is a very important part of being trustworthy. And in a very scientific way, you can say trust is built when there is on one hand competence. On the other hand, you have credibility. That means you honor your word. And third, you are being fair to people. So competence, credibility, and fairness are the ingredients. But the style that I talked about earlier is the one which makes it come alive.
And in this whole journey of writing the book, Anilji, what was the hardest part to put pen to paper?
You know, that last chapter I wrote on how even though people may get inspired through this book and so many others, similar writings of other authors, many people get inspired, but then something prevents them from actually making the choice. Like they will listen to your podcast, they may get inspired. But there are the habits that we are currently having, which prevent us from actually becoming better versions of ourselves. So the hardest thing is, I say I want to transform in this way, but then I don't do anything. I struggle because inside my own mind, there is something else which is preventing me from change, which I mentioned in my last chapter, which I say that, what blocks your own mind to improve. So on one hand, your mind wants to change, but on the other hand, your own mind prevents you to change. And how to observe these two polarities inside your own mind, what Keegan's work I refer to, I also refer to Swami Chinmayananda's and Vedantic view on this, that when you observe your own mind, you can say my mind is playing games. My purity of intent to transform is one thing, but actually there is a very strong impurity in my own intent which wants to hang on to the status quo. And that is because, for example, for my CEO I was coaching, that person had a very foul temper and he came to me for coaching because he wanted to improve. But on the other hand, there was a part of his own mind which said, unless I produce fear in the workplace, I will not get productivity. So he genuinely believed that. So on the facade, he was trying to now act nice, but deep inside, he didn't trust people. So it took a long time, in fact, a very long amount of coaching and then openness on his part to genuinely change his beliefs. And eventually the progress was seen by him and his family and his company. But that's what happens. That's why many New Year resolutions we are not able to keep up to. Because the real strong desire to change is not there because there is an equally strong desire not to change. When you awaken your inner witness, you can observe your own mind. When you can do that, now you can say, oh my God, I have been conditioned too much. Now I can break free. Then you launch some experiments for new habits and you genuinely, and there's a lot of research on habits to say you should not try to bring some big change overnight, but start with small wins and gradually build the belief in yourself that you can do it. And then, of course, beautiful things begin.
So if somebody is desperately looking out for the secret sauce between the knowing to doing gap, here is what the secret sauce is. Be observant, be reflective of what you are doing, and there lies the answer.
Yes.
Anilji, if I were to kind of take back memory lane in your own journey, you declined not one, two directors' chair. I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore. Looking back now, what would have been lost or what was gained by saying no to these roles?
From a young person in one function, HR, getting into operations and manufacturing and saying yes to that, then coming back and being part of the same organization, even though we all kept getting so many more attractive offers at much more money outside. The fact that we chose to work in the same company with my colleagues and the fact that we were able to therefore build quite an exceptional workplace. And the fact that I followed my dreams. Everybody told me at that time when I was setting up ECS that this is not going to take off. They said, you are too much an Eicher person and you have done everything well inside Eicher. Why would people trust you with their organization? Some of my best friends told me it will be a non-starter. I'm glad I didn't listen to them. I'm glad I chose to follow the path of choosing my own Gurudev's teachings. And I said, okay, let me make the struggle. It doesn't matter whether I succeed or not, but the cause is important. Similarly, when I was setting up Grow Talent Company, the same thing happened. Similarly, when I was setting up Soil, everybody, my well-wishers told me this is not possible. So what I find is that when you are inspired by a cause that is worthwhile, it's not about you. It is about making a difference to the world. So if you find a worthwhile cause in your life and if you dedicate your life by using all your strengths in service of that cause, then beautiful things happen to you. Then the leadership happens to you. Because see, it's you are not the doer. It is the cause that is attracting people. So this is what I said. I'm very glad I didn't listen to all the naysayers who each moment in my life told me this is not possible. When we set up Grow Talent, they said all the global companies are in India. Why are you doing this now? You set up one company. Why a second one? And in 5 years, we became number one in the country in HR consulting. So I think this is something. And then when we were setting up a business school, one of my closest friends told me, Anil, this is not a joke. You may have set up a consulting company. Business school requires huge amount of money. You don't have that money. You don't have that much land. How will you do it? Don't waste your life. You're already in your 50s. You're comfortable. You are earning very well in your consulting. And I'm so glad I said yes to the cause that was behind Soil. So say yes to the cause. Do not get distracted by people's criticism, where even your family members, sometimes they are very well-meaning. They try to be very protective of you. They tell you not to take risks. But if you are convinced you are on the right path, you would say yes to what makes sense. You say yes to what is emerging from inside, which is what you are talking about, inspiration, right? So follow your inspiration. Beautiful things will happen in your life.
That's so very true. And I kind of can't say much to it, but endorse that particular. You say yes to what resonates to you, what you see as a cause. And Anilji, you wrote this book. You're leaving the school. You're coaching the leaders. At a time when AI is what leadership even means, is the inspired leader the answer to this? Is it lesser, more urgent in 2025 than in 1995?
Because we are going to have a lot of technology that we are all using, including I am using technology quite a lot. The more we use technology, the more we have, for example, AI agents working with us along with human beings, the more we will need a bigger connection with people. Because AI minus the human connection is fraught with very high danger and risk. For the capacity to ask the right questions. See, it's a language model, which is AI. AI it's like saying all the data and information that exists in the universe is already out there in all the data in the world. Now you can ask the right questions, the right prompts, you will get the right answers. But the question is that all that data and information that has been put there, what is the question you want to ask? And are you only asking questions based on what exists? Or is there a new question that you are asking which is for the future? Even if machines become more intelligent, they cannot replace human consciousness. You cannot have a conscious machine. So it's very important because it's so very important. In fact, the founder of the Intel chip, Federico, I think is his name, if I remember, he came and delivered a talk in our global leadership program. He's the man who invented the first Pentium chip. He said, all my life I was serving technology. Now I realize that the most important thing is consciousness. So he stopped all his R&D on technology and he was saying, doing all research on consciousness. He said, that's the only thing that matters. Because if we can understand what the nature of consciousness is, and in a way, if we can feel that, so the more we use technology, the more there'll be a need for the spiritual dimension and the human dimension. So I think without that, there are going to be serious ethical consequences. There are going to be serious issues about the kind of planet that we are going to inhabit, the kind of future we are building for our children. We can't rob our children of the future by making shortcuts based on what the convenient answers we get out of AI. I think we have to learn how to lead AI to serve the well-being of all and not to allow AI to overtake our sense of discernment and our sense of larger purpose. So that's what I would say.
And that's the leadership one need to showcase.
Yeah.
Responsibly AI to lead AI for the benefit of the society and the community.
So I have therefore two AIs. I say AI is augmented intelligence, and then I say appreciative inquiry, AI, is very important. Then I say AI is from aspiration to inspiration,
Wow.
from outside to within. So use these two AIs, the appreciative inquiry to build trust with others, and the inner inquiry from aspiration to inspiration. So when you do these two AIs, then that AI has more impact and meaning.
Beautifully put together. Anilji, what does it still mean to keep giving, to kind of keep passing it forward?
So I believe that whatever time one has in this world, every day one must have a sense of gratitude and say, whatever the Lord has given me, I should find a way to serve with all my heart, whatever. So for instance, at this stage of my life, doing my seva to Chinmaya Mission, which is a voluntary organization that I'm associated with, I always find time to do that. Second, investing time with the young people in the campuses whom I teach, learning from them rather than just teaching them is such an important part. And then the fortunate opportunities I get to serve on certain global and Indian boards and organizations is my opportunity to have conversations with people where one can always have a really important conversation with people to say what truly matters, because there are some large organizations. There are also some very wonderful organizations I'm associated with. And when I ask the questions that matter, I think it helps people to get out of their current way of thinking on only managing for so-called shareholder returns or so-called, narrower results. With my voice given, which comes through me, they're able to talk about something more meaningful. And I believe that helps in expanding the work that we are doing. I love my work. I'm going to be 72 in a few months, but that's the age of the body. As long as the body has the energy, as long as the mind is active, I'll keep up. But I will also keep creating my time for sadhana. In a few days from now, I'm going to Tiruvannamalai. I'm going to my Ramana Maharishi ashram with some friends and Asudai, and now 7-8 friends have joined hands. So we'll all be there. We'll do the 14 kilometers and we will go and meditate at Bhagwan Ramana's place. So as long as one can keep creating this inner space every day, I think that's most important. And that's a very, very beautiful part of this life. So I think that's what gives me every day, to say it's a beautiful world out there. Don't get completely disenchanted with everything happening. My heart goes to the youth who are protesting in India. In fact, I think next week I may go with all my colleagues to go to the protest site to join the young people to say what is happening in their life. I've also found a way to support food being served by working with some NGOs to serve the young people food. I think this shows that we need to be very aware. We need to be very present. Everything is happening in our world. We should try to create some meaning and try to make a positive difference rather than criticize people, condemn them. So I think if there can be a balanced voice which brings different stakeholders together, I think some of us, because of our privilege of having become older, I think we owe it to the society to bring a saner sense of balance whenever there are these issues in society and in the larger environment. So hopefully some of us will continue to do that. So that's what makes life worthwhile.
Wonderful. Anilji, it needed an inspired leader to write Inspired Leader. I'm so glad you took that journey. You kind of put all of those things together. Many congratulations for that. Before we wrap up, if there's something all the listeners can try out, something this week or this month, what would you recommend them to do?
Find one small thing to do every day to put smiles on people's. One small thing. If nothing else, smile at others. If nothing else, thank people. Very simple. And find one something new you want to learn, which will give you happiness. So something to learn, because if you have that curiosity, I want to learn something about. So if you have that curiosity learning going, then you will always be in a beautiful state of mind that you will consider life as a way to learn. And then by your presence every day, if you can put more smiles around you, I would say these are the two things I would say. Very small things, but that's where it all begins.
Small but powerful things. Bring a smile on somebody's face and have that curiosity in doing something new every day. Anilji, on that note, thank you so much for taking time and sharing this wonderful journey and your wonderful book, Inspired Leader. And I appreciate all the insights that you provided to me and to my listeners.
Thank you. All the very best. Make your podcast go far and wide. I'm so happy, Shrikant, you are doing this 6th anniversary of Inspire Someone Today podcast. Your work has touched the lives of millions of people. And I think the power of this is that you are doing it with a pure heart, with a pure intention to help somebody to improve their lives. I urge every one of you who is listening to Shrikant's podcast, please pay attention. This is very worthwhile what he is doing. Please share with your friends, with your family. Who knows? By just a small act of inviting somebody, you might inspire someone today. Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Conversations like this remind us that growth doesn't always come from answers. It often comes from better questions. Inspire Someone Today began with the belief that each of us has the power to make a difference. Not to grand gestures, but to everyday choices. That belief still holds, now with a little more depth and a lot more listening. If something from today's episode stayed with you, carry it forward. Share it, sit with it, or explore it further through the IST community or the book Inspire Someone Today. Until we meet again, stay curious, keep inspiring, and inspire someone today.